All right, I'd like to call to order the June 23rd, 2025 Mountlake Terrace Planning Commission meeting to order. Would you please take the roll?
Chair Batista.
Here. Here.
Commissioner Stenson.
Present.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Vice Chair Betcher has just arrived. Please note that Commissioner Morgan has not yet signed in online, nor has he shown up in person. Commissioner Landis will be requesting an excusal for tonight.
And Commissioner Wu already has an excused absence. Would anybody like to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Landis?
I make a motion that we excuse Commissioner Landis.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Commissioner Landis has an excused absence for this evening. So we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, approval of the June 9th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to those? I am not hearing or seeing any, so we'll go ahead and declare those accepted as presented. Item number 4, public comment. Let the record show there is no public in attendance tonight. Do we have anybody online who signed up to speak?
No one online has signed up to speak, nor submitted any written comment.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, presentation of economic development activities.
There we go. Good evening. Good evening, Chair and Vice Chair and Commissioners. My name is Ryan Doss. I am the new Economic Development Manager for Mountlake Terrace. I'm here to first and foremost introduce myself, but also give a brief overview of kind of the status of economic development going on here in the city. But first, a little bit about me. So I've been with the city for just over 2 months now. I am still new, not only to Mountlake Terrace, but also Washington. I just recently relocated from the state of Texas. But I bring with me a Master's of Public Administration and over 5 years of local government experience with a strong focus on economic development, community revitalization, and strategic partnerships. So as I settle into this role, my focus has been and will continue to be building on connections with internal and external partners, understanding the unique needs of this community, and identifying ways to align development efforts with Mountlake Terrace's long-term goals. So here's the agenda for tonight. I'll provide an overview of the city's economic profile and demographics, walk through my role in current and ongoing initiatives, and lastly touch upon how we can collaborate to support shared goals around land use, business growth, and development. My hope is that tonight is just the beginning of an ongoing dialogue, and that I'll have the great pleasure of coming back in the future to keep you informed as we move forward with economic development. All right. So looking at our economic profile, it's clear that Mountlake Terrace is both primed for growth and already actively experiencing it. So different sources of population estimates have us very close to, if not already exceeding 25,000 residents, which I believe is something to celebrate. It's a testament to the years of thoughtful work by this commission and also the dedication of city staff, especially Christy and the CED team. As you can see, we have a highly educated population with over 40% of residents holding a bachelor's degree or higher. Combined with a strong medium household income, that makes Mountlake Terrace an attractive community for both businesses and investors. The city has nearly 10,000 housing units with a mix of ownership and rentals that support a diverse and growing population. We also have a solid employment base with more than 11,500 residents in the labor force. Most commuters still drive, but we're starting to see shifting patterns in recent years with work from home and use of public transit. I believe up there it says 8%. However, this specific data point is from last September, so that would be a year after the light rail opening, so I expect that number to actually be a little bit higher. Because, the light rail station is a big game changer for us, and in less than a year of operation, the station is already seeing an average of over 1,200 riders per day. And it's only the beginning of what that infrastructure will bring to the city. And finally, we are home to more than 500 businesses, both big and small, and continuing to grow. As further evidence of our momentum, the CED team has already issued over 60 new business licenses this year. So my position is newly created, with the Economic Development Division being housed within the city manager's office. This helps my work stay aligned with broader city goals and grants me the flexibility to operate cross-departmentally. So for clarity, I'm not housed within CED, but I do have the great pleasure of officing amongst the team and collaborating with them every day. My fiscal year 25 budget is just over $300,000. In addition to administrative expenses, it is positioned to support marketing, outreach, program development, and supportive funding for the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce. My priorities are guided by three key documents: Vision 2044, our comprehensive plan, the city's strategic plan, and also the 2024-2029 economic development strategic plan. So that is structured by three key strategies: enhance Mountlake Terrace's image as a destination for businesses, support local and small businesses as a pillar of Mountlake Terrace's economy, and invest in Mountlake Terrace Town Center as a hub of local and regional economic activity. All of which provide me a strong framework on how to approach economic development moving forward. Next, we have a glimpse into what I am working on now and what's coming up and / will be ongoing. So for current initiatives, in partnership between myself and our communications and community engagement manager, we have recently issued an RFP for a citywide branding strategy that will strive to create a unified identity and brands for Mountlake Terrace. This has the goal to collaboratively create a new perception of the city that supports both resident pride and business attraction. The RFP is scheduled to close next week on July 3rd, and we do hope to incorporate the Commission's feedback and input during that process once the selected consultant gets underway. Another priority of mine is the World Cup coming next year. We are less than a year away already. City staff has started doing some internal planning for the World Cup. We're looking to partner with local organizations, surrounding cities, and the Chamber to generate and implement initiatives that will help support our businesses and encourage them to take advantage of this opportunity. And to also inform residents on what all will be happening here in Mountlake Terrace, but also in the surrounding area, and mostly generate exposure to Mountlake Terrace as best as we can. In addition, I'm currently in the process of approving the city's economic development web presence, so that includes updating content on the city's website with some focused messaging for site selectors, developers, and our local businesses as well. I also work closely with the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County, and I'm actively building additional regional partnerships to help elevate our visibility and attract additional investment. So looking ahead / what is ongoing, I'm currently supporting the Chamber in developing a new business directory and database to better track and engage our business community. This will also support a more formal business retention and expansion program with the goal of regular outreach and issue tracking for our existing businesses. I'm already in the process of refining our business attraction strategy by identifying priority sectors and increasing our marketing efforts. And lastly, in collaboration with CED, I will be continuing to support key private developments and building relationships and hopefully positive reputations with new developers, particularly for Town Center. So I know this is quick, but it kind of brings me to my last critical point is just collaboration with the Planning Commission. Economic development and land use are directly connected. The decisions you make on zoning, infrastructure, development standards shape the types of businesses and investments we can attract and retain. We want to ensure that our economic goals are informing land use decisions and vice versa. And whether it's code updates or design guidelines, having an economic lens in the process helps drive better long-term outcomes. As we continue public engagement and consider policy changes, I hope we can coordinate early and often. Your work is foundational, and I look forward to being a strong partner moving forward. And that is my very quick presentation. So I thank you for your time tonight. I'm excited about the work ahead and working with all of you closely. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm glad that you're here. You're doing important work, and I know that we've sort of been hoping for a position that you have to open for a while, and I'm really glad to see you fill it. I think you have a lot of, there are a lot of threads that are not quite tied together that I think your position really helps us, especially with things like community identity and economic development in terms of how it comes from the community. So I'm glad to see you here. I'm curious, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. In your first couple months here, what are some strengths and opportunities? Like, what's your overall impression?
Of Mountlake Terrace itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what really drew me here was the opportunity for growth, and I think also, the capacity for the city to do that, and how hopefully it's inevitable, but we can manage it in a productive and strategic way. The light rail station is a great asset, and hopefully that brings in additional development. But also the plan for town center, I think, is fantastic, and really kind of sets up that the city's been thinking long-term for many years now. So.
Great. I hope to see you out at some of the events. I know one of the things that we've been struggling with it is in our identity is how to articulate it. I feel like there are a lot of very interesting people within our community who do interesting things. And I think in your role, you are in a position to sort of help bring them to the full flower of their abilities as you're also drawing in businesses and building the infrastructure to help incubate new businesses. So I hope you feel welcome, and I hope the community is welcoming and we're able to get to know each other better. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
No, I agree. Thank you for coming out, and I'm looking forward to our partnership together. And Texas, what part of Texas?
Dallas,
Oh, of course.
North Texas.
And then how long have you been in Washington? Also?
So I've been here with the city for just over 2 months.
Oh.
And so add about 2 or 3 days on top of that, and that's how long I've been here.
Sweet, you came from Dallas to Mountlake
Yes,
Terrace.
yes, ma'am.
I feel like that's impressive.
Yes.
Buckle up for winter.
Yes. I am unsure about all this rain and gray that y'all have been talking about. This summer's been fantastic. So
Is this a strategy to bring people in at the beginning of summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it won't be as bad as you think. Yeah. We say all of that to, keep people in the right frame of mind, but it's better than you think. That's why it's beautiful and green, that water.
So I would just kind of piggyback off your comment about, sort of community identity. It's been a desire of this planning commission for a while to really focus on not only just community as a whole identity, but neighborhood identity.
Yes.
Neighborhood branding, really trying to get the strength out in the neighborhoods. Obviously, town center is the focus given its location to the light rail station, but we really want to see all of our neighborhoods grow and thrive, and we have multiple neighborhoods with commercial nodes that we want to build off of, and so we really want to get the word out there. It's like, yes, town center, but also everywhere else, and include possibly create smaller neighborhoods, our new neighborhoods that don't aren't on the books. Most of it's just administrative. It's like, oh, we're calling this part of the city this, we're calling this part of the city that. But they're big areas, and it's not really a neighborhood per se. And so we're trying to grow that as well. And obviously, businesses help with that identity and that growth. It kind of creates that destination for people who are outside of that hyper-local area to, want to be drawn to that area and, bring their tax dollars with them. The one question, sort of, or comment I do have is that we've kind of been unfortunate in that every time we've done a town center plan, we get hit by a recession. The last one was in '08, and that really knocked us on our butts for a decade. And, it's kind of up in the air how it's going to go right now, given certain decisions being made at the federal level, with tariffs and just economy, housing market in general. Obviously, we have our, our comp plan and, our sub-area plans. Is it just you taking those plans and kind of going out and trying to sell those to the community, or is there like additional material that you're creating, or additional tools that you're using to try and really get the word out, saying, hey, look at us, we're a great option, and we're ripe for redevelopment? Because I have a feeling sometimes we just kind of got lost in the noise, and sort of the rest of what's happening in South Snohomish County, sort of North King County.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think our, town center plan, or the comprehensive plan, all the different plans that we have, that provides the vision for what we're looking for. And I can definitely use that to go out and sell our vision and try to bring in new investment. But I'm also looking for different tools to help that sales pitch as well. So using data, showing the growth that we have, our demographics and proximity to everything around us is helpful as well. We are a part of the county's ADO, which is the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County. Just recently, I began in conversations with Shoreline and a few other cities, just more geographically close to us, and just in discussions with them on how we can collaborate. Because I know a lot of Snohomish County, because we're right on the border, King County, Snohomish County, and so just trying to create a new avenue of partnerships with cities that aren't necessarily in our county.
Okay. I know that maybe not so much in near term, but in the past, developers will come and, Christie or staff will end up having, talking to them where they're already, they're already sort of eyeballing us, and they're testing the water. They want to see, hey, what's feasible? What can we do? But they've already heard about us, or they already know, they're already aware of us. And so I think the key here is to try and get those people that have been overlooking us. And, because right now we maybe aren't hearing anything because of things that are outside of our control, with how the economy's doing, or the housing, or, what the demand is. And, these investors, they have the money to just sort of sit on their money and wait. They're fine with that. Us, not so much. We want to see that activity happening, because my personal opinion is I think that activity would fuel the growth,
Yes.
Hey, take a chance, build. Odds are it's going to work out for you. But I guess the key is now trying to reach out to those people who haven't necessarily looked at us in the past. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, what sort of what that process is. Who are you reaching out to, and is there maybe this is a good question. Is there something that, I don't want to say that we weren't necessarily doing something right in the past, or maybe just something that we were completely overlooking that moving forward, might be a new tool or new avenue that we might try?
Yeah, no, and you bring up a great point, and I do think it is twofold. So it is working with the developers or the businesses that are already aware of Mountlake Terrace and interested in the city, and making sure that, we have a good reputation in the developer community. But then also getting the word out about our city, getting those that are overlooking us to, take notice, buy into our vision, understands that it's going to take one catalytic project to really transform this area. So it's, going through our different outreach and marketing efforts that we currently have. We have a partnership with Puget Sound Business Journal where we do some articles. We kind of go the media route, but also having my role as a position solely focused on this, I'm able to have the bandwidth that the city hasn't had in the past to get really involved with different organizations, different community groups, start cold calling and inviting to meetings developers that, you know, haven't even heard of us before. So it's all about trying to build a good reputation, but then get the word out as well.
Is that focus more mainly with, you know, local developers, or, you know, this is maybe a broader question just because we're kind of blind to sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, who's behind the curtain and then is proposing this kind of stuff? Or is it more of a regional or maybe even like a national outreach? You know, there's like, you know, like REIT or venture capital money, you know, that's just sitting out there that isn't maybe necessarily local. And they're looking to something that's going to check their boxes regardless of where it's at. Maybe they're looking at taxes or something like that, that might kind of steer their decision. But, you know, is it really, are we only really relying on, you know, kind of our local business, our developers, or is there that opportunity to maybe capture something, you know, more regional or non-local as well?
Yeah, I don't think our intention is to be restrictive to, you know, just local developers or groups that are already aware of us or active in the region. I mean, we would be open to working with partners nationally and across the country, but, you know, the bigger firms, they might see it as more numbers on a spreadsheet, and it just has to pencil out for them.
Yeah, it's usually how their design ends up happening.
And
too,
so it's, yeah, so it's just, you know, getting the word out and expressing our vision and, you know, helping convince that it will pencil out and it is a good investment to come here.
Right, thank you.
But yeah, I do want to mention, because you brought up a great point about the, just the different neighborhoods and neighborhood branding in sub areas. So I would recommend to take a look at the RFP of kind of how we have it broken out, but part of the intention is to start exploring kind of the different neighborhoods and having neighborhood branding that kind of all tie together for the Mountlake Terrace as an overarching brand. But we definitely want the commission's like input and feedback during that process. And, you know, maybe help kickstart a process for y'all to pursue naming the different neighborhoods, coming up with different boundaries or whatnot.
Great. Yeah. Just double checking one more time. Does anybody else have any follow-up questions? Nope.
Well, plenty as the time progresses.
Yeah. Yeah, we will definitely, you'll be hearing from us a lot. So we're very,
I'm looking forward to it.
we're very interested in this topic and have been, you know, as long as I've been on the planning commission, which is a while. So yeah, the planning commission generally understands the importance of this aspect to the overall city's health. And so we're very hyper-focused on making sure that we're not only successful in all of our endeavors, but especially when it comes to this, because this is kind of the tip of the spear, that first step that we need to sort of be that catalyst and hopefully exponential growth to follow. So
That's the plan. Yeah.
did you have any follow-ups or?
I was just going to mention a couple things that Ryan and I have talked about. One is the branding for sub-areas in neighborhoods, to kickstart that as part of the branding, with the intention that we told the Planning Commission that next year we are going to delve into that more. So starting it this year with that process, so then we can continue work on that next year and just kind of get a leg up with what that looks like in conjunction with the overall city branding. So it looks like we're working in unison. And then we also talked about when we do development review with the Planning Commission and City Council, to let you guys know, hey, this is what's going on as far as permitting and developing, that Ryan should be involved in that process, so we can kind of give you a twofer of what's going on development-wise, with Ryan adding to economic development activities and kind of what's in the works with what he has going on, because there's definitely, like he said, some overlap there of us working together on some of these things to, you know, kind of help move that along the best we can, regardless of the ups and downs and sideways of, you know, things that we can't control state-wise or nationally. Doesn't mean that we can't still be moving in the direction that we want to see as a community to be ready for these things to happen, or continue to improve upon what we have right now and, you know, alter those things where they need to be altered. But so had some of those initial discussions with Ryan of trying to work together of what a lot of what we've talked about in the past of, you know, moving some of those things forward. So that is the intent that we're going to be doing that.
That made me think of another question. In terms of working with other commissions, what you said, and I think what Chair Bautista said, made me think of parks. Like, they're pretty close, like central to our identity, and while they're not like directly, you know, economic development factors in and of themselves, I do feel like they have a close tie to the community and sort of the weird things that make each individual area of town unique. I am curious, and if this isn't the case, you know, it's early days, but I feel like there are a number of other groups or boards or other community sort of features that would also be really valuable to your work. Are you planning to reach out to them as well and update them regularly?
Yeah, so we do that with everything. So we might not directly mention certain things, I guess, as well as we need to, but we consistently through the comp plan and development review, and there's an urban, you know, forest plan that's going through. There's other things where actually I talked to the Parks Project Manager and the Parks Director today. So we are in constant contact, and we're taking certain things through those groups just as a given anymore. So we're not, you know, so singularly focused like, oh, well, state law says we have to do the Planning Commission and then council. We're running things through DEI. We're running things through the parks. We're running things through the Arts Commission. So I think we've, as a whole, are trying to improve our community outreach in general, trying to reach out to people that aren't the usual suspects that come to the meetings, and trying to do the best we can to include others. And then also internally, where we're trying to utilize all these folks on these different boards and commissions, because they definitely have a say. I mean, I'm not going to be the branding consultant, but I happen to think that parks is like one of the top of the list things that I think goes part and parcel to branding this community. If it was me making a comment or a suggestion, I think that we can use that. You know, employers look for quality of life, look for parks, look for schools, look for these certain things. So yeah, you can't actually put a dollar, well, you guys do, don't you? Yeah, economic development, they put a dollar on everything. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, those are those are very tangible things that make us who we are. And when I think of Mountlake Terrace, one of the first things I think of is that we have great parks, and we can make the parks even better. And we've been improving those things for the overall community. So I mean, I think that's, yeah, huge on that list. It'll be interesting to see the process, but I would say I'm pretty sure that the community that becomes involved is going to hold that pretty high on their list as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities and potential, and
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone synthesize all these things like
Sure.
into a single like vision statement of the community. So I think this is great. And also builds on, like, where we're getting a lot more programming in the parks, and there are even things that aren't related to the parks, like, you know, when I think of things that are fun in town, like there's the church in Melody Hill that does their festival every year, or I don't know if they still do after COVID, but they did for a while, and it's like a big neighborhood thing. And so, like, one of the really valuable things I think is just kind of summarizing all this into like a snapshot of the community. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know best. The people that live here know the city better than, you know, than I do, than Ryan does. I mean, we're the newbies. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, we can think that we know certain things, but, and it's not that we don't know certain things, but the community also has that real knowledge, and the people that have lived here in this community have that real knowledge of this community way better. And so I think it's just getting the professionals together with the community and then coming up with the best plan for sure. But it'll be fun to kind of see what comes out of branding and kind of what things we need to work on to improve that for sure. And we already know sub-area and neighborhood planning has been high on the list for quite some time.
Yeah, I think good walking tours of each of these little areas we're talking about would be a fun thing to, it's a request I have.
So obviously being the planning commission, our focus has kind of been more on the development side of things. But I am kind of curious how we could, is it possible for the city to be a part of sort of connecting businesses with potential development, or just businesses in general? Because, I mean, give you an example right now, Cedar Plaza is experiencing a couple of vacancies. They raised their rent a little bit, and a couple of businesses said, sayonara. So, the idea of getting new businesses into these, existing commercial spaces, or, to sort of create, new businesses who maybe wouldn't be originally looking at Mountlake Terrace, but if they're paired up with a potential developer, kind of, little blind date, so to speak, just say, hey, developer, meet business. They're looking for space. You're looking for a tenant. So I don't know, is that part of your role, is sort of facilitating that synergy, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it comes, if a business comes through me first, then I can definitely connect them with the appropriate channels. I will say I've met with brokers in the community. I just met with the broker for Cedar Plaza, and talked about the existing businesses and kind of what they're aiming to do, and fully buy into what their vision is for the site. It's a lot of, them specifically trying to manage the growth, and also, rents are comparable, if not competitive, to the surrounding area. I think it's, I'm not privy to their specific leases or anything like that, but, I do have conversations with the brokers, and they're the ones out there, and they're at site selection conferences, they're cold calling different businesses. They're the ones being like, hey, store that does XYZ, come to Mountlake Terrace. And so part of my role is to support them in what they're doing, to, achieve the ultimate goal of bringing new businesses in. But the same thing happens with developers too, of, a new mixed-use building that might come in, and they're going to have retail on the ground floor, trying to help partner them with appropriate uses that could benefit everyone.
I know that's one of the comments that I haven't heard too much lately, but developers always like to make is that they don't want to, they don't want to have to provide that ground floor retail, because they'll just argue, hey, it's going to be vacant for 10 years. We're never going to fill it, and it's just going to sit empty. And it's like, well, there's always a demand out there. It's just finding that right hook.
Yeah, I would definitely argue there is a demand, and that is what increases resident interest in living in those type of buildings, having restaurants or different types of stores just on the first floor is highly attractive to apartment residents.
Okay. One last call. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? All right. Thank you very much. Like I said, you'll probably be hearing from us a lot.
I look forward to it. Thank you all. Yes.
Thank you.
What's that?
Sure.
I don't know anybody's on there that it matters, but.
All righty. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. It looks like Director's Report.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little update on what's coming up. So this week on Thursday, City Council is going to conduct their public hearing for the middle housing ordinances. We did 2 work sessions with them after you made your recommendation. There has been some small tweaks on some of the chapters, mostly just for clarity and implementation. So no major changes, just trying to improve on verbiage for the most part and making those a little bit better, just because we've had a little bit of time on that. At your next meeting, you'll be getting an introduction on the Housing Action Plan and be talking to you guys about strategies for the Housing Action Plan, and then you guys will work through the contents of that for a draft that will be required, since it's a plan, to go through state review, and then we'll go off to City Council for adoption. So we'll be working on that most likely July, August, and then hand it off to council. And council were typically, when you guys are working on stuff, giving a brief on that as well. And then there'll be some public outreach on that as well with affordable home providers and others in the housing business, I guess, if you will. And then on the 24th, you will be reviewing kind of the process and content for required critical areas ordinance update that we're working on right now internally. So we're required to update these ordinances for fish and wild habitat, wetlands, steep slopes, flooded areas, aquifer recharge areas. I'm forgetting something else, but anyways, all of those good things for those protections. And we base these regulations on what's called best available science. And so we have done a review of our existing ordinance with folks that do this work to say where we need to take a look at our existing ordinances and improve them based on kind of what the agencies like Department of Ecology and Fish and Wildlife and those folks have to say. And so we're, like I said, going through that process, and we'll be giving you an update on that context. And then you'll be working and reviewing those draft changes that are going to be proposed. So they'll come to you after that in a form to discuss potential changes to that. There was a pre-construction meeting at Ballinger Park. So work is going to begin on construction of the trail on the north end of the lake and the viewing platform. So that work will begin. So you'll see a trailer, a construction trailer down there, and work beginning on that project moving forward as well. For Vets Park, speaking of parks, for Vets Park, that work has been shut down for temporarily because of safety things that need to be put in the park, handrails and other things that are on back order and need constructed. We're working on some additional tree removal that has happened, so I'll be working with the Parks Department on tree replacement and fee in lieu of and some other things to work out the final, the things that have to happen in the field to make sure that we will get that project completed and buttoned up. And then it sounds like they'll be back in there October, November, and then there'll be tree planting that will occur for tree replacement and doing the finishing touches on the park to get that's completed. There's also work that will be completed in the next couple of weeks for the restrooms at, I don't know why the park's name, the park with the ball fields.
Evergreen Playfield.
Evergreen Playfield, thank you. I was like, what the hell is that park's name? Evergreen. And so there's been fencing around that. So that fencing will be removed and the accessibility for sidewalks around the restrooms and compliance with ADA accessibility standards and all of that stuff. So I'm anticipating that that will be finished within the next couple of weeks. So you'll see that happening as well. So that's great. I'm like, it's summer, need to get the restrooms done. So a lot of park work actually on doing that. And then having a conversation of once we kind of get through what we need to do as a refresher, so critical areas, additional zoning that we still need to do this year, and the other work, you'll be seeing some building code amendments and the housing action plan. So we're, like we discussed before, we're pretty tapped this year as far as the stuff that we have to do, but are talking about the things moving forward in 26. And so we have a home occupation ordinance that is, doesn't anticipate people working from home, let's just say that, or it's very prescriptive in listing things. And so that needs a major overhaul in how we move forward with home occupations kind of in the 2025 era. So we need to work on that. That's something that needs to be refreshed. And then we have some process and procedures of now with the new legislation of where we're moving to a lot of administrative review. We need to do some amendments for that. So that's going to be happening in 26 as well. And then we have sub-area neighborhood planning on moving that forward of working on that next year as well. So those are kind of the big three. We can have further conversations on a work plan, but just trying to kind of line up, hey, these are the things that we know that we either have to work on. We're trying to get the have to stuff done as much as we can this year. And then kind of more of the, hey, these are things that the Planning Commission really would like to work on next year and be able to do some of those, get to some of those things finally that you folks would like to work on that have kind of been on our work program for quite a while. So, and then, so think about that. I bring it up to think about it early if there's something else that really needs to rise to the top of that list for next year that you guys can think of. So just kind of think about it, not imminent, but I'm already kind of thinking about that right now of what that looks like for us. So, and with that, that's kind of all I know that's kind of percolating right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has a question about something that I can answer. Anything?
Where does transportation fit into that?
In what regard?
We've got several plans, and I assume they all have deadlines, but looking at the transportation master plan, sounds like it's not required by the state, so it's a little lower, but I know that's one of the things that sort of complements the zoning and comp plan we've been doing?
Yeah, so there's what's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan. That's going through city council kind of as a update, a minor update that needs to be done. The major focus for transportation that I know of is there were engineering design standards that were done last year of taking a look at that and seeing what is working and what needs to be tweaked this year. That's this fall. The major things that are coming out of Public Works are the water comp plan and the sewer comp plan. And those are must do. And so those are kind of big priorities for Public Works as we speak. There's also, they're in charge of emergency management planning. Our emergency plan is old and outdated, and so work is being done on that. So that's kind of taken priority as well. Work is still being done on trying to secure right-of-way and funds for Main Street Phase 2. I think in the first part of July, we're supposed to find out if we've received any federal grant money. That's not looking great at this point, but I know that there's some potential opportunities at the state level and what that looks like. So that's kind of some big focus now. You guys had a presentation on commute trip reduction. I know that's going through this Thursday for council to sign off on that to be added to the bigger project that's being done by Snohomish County. But I'm not aware of a full transportation plan or what's on the docket, but I can find out for next year kind of besides the water and sewer comp plans. But we're, I think, a year behind schedule of where we should be on the water and sewer comp plans right now. So that, I know that's pretty imminent. And also for doing some measuring of infiltration of stormwater and other things as far as treatment for sewer capacity and the rising cost of treatment and how to get those costs down and stay within different capacities, as well as the cost of buying water from the city of Everett. So I know those are kind of major things that they're working on right now.
Yeah. Is the housing plan and the environmental area, critical areas plans due by the end of the year?
Yeah, critical areas is due by the end of the year. I've been trying to sneak stuff in to be adopted by fall, so we're not part of the quagmire when people get really tired and it's the holidays. So I'm hoping that we can have critical areas done by October. And the same for the housing action plan of just trying to get that done as well. So some of the other stuff that kind of lags behind that we build in some room at the end of the year if we need to bring something else forward. But yeah, we'll be doing all those things this year. And then some, like we talked about, there's kind of the, hey, we really need to do this stuff. And, we can prioritize that for 2026 moving forward.
Okay, I know the areas that went from orange to purple on the map in the latest comp plan update. I have no idea if you were to build something there now, what rules they would go by, because.
So we're going to have, it's going to be the old zoning. And then when we do this part 2 for the new zoning, which we're going to also get through, and you guys will be working on, that will be done by fall. And then we'll have the complete zoning map, the same as the land use map in the comp plan.
Okay, so knuckles down through October, basically, or
No
pedal to the metal.
rest. No, absolutely no rest for you folks.
All right.
Although, I want you to realize that if something comes up sometime and you're like, oh, they canceled planning commission, which sometimes in the summer becomes a little bit hard. Like typically we've canceled one in July or August. Work is continuing. It's just work to give you folks something that you have something to work with versus like, hey, we need to do this, because that's never a good thing. But so, like I said, work is already happening internally on critical areas in the housing action plan. So that work is actually happening. So,
Good.
yeah. Anything else any questions?
Just to follow up when you were talking about, as part of that report and looking at the cost of buying the water from Everett. As part of that, will we also be looking at what the cost would be to increase our capacity to be able to get more water, or maybe even not just water, more electricity, because again, I mentioned it before, we were kind of curtailed with the type of zoning we wanted to do because of a capacity issue.
Yeah, I mean, we did some of that work in the comp plan, and we essentially said if we want to get through that 20-year period, for a while, we're just fine. But even prior to the end of that 20-year period, we have to do something for water capacity. We need another water tower. We need additional things to occur, treatment capacity for sewer. So, I mean, these are really important, and the cost, which ends up being rates, which you all pay, become very critical, right? In making sure that that work's being done now so we don't get pushed up against it. Or worst case scenario, you find yourself in a moratorium and all building ceases to exist, which I've been in a jurisdiction where that's happened, and that's not great either. And so you don't ever want to get caught with, hey, we don't have enough water rights. Oh, hey, we don't have any more treatment capacity at the sewer treatment plant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, all that stuff's getting worked on right now, so we don't get to that point down the road like, we just kick the can and then we find ourselves in a real pickle coming up. So that's another thing. I know that we're actually, I believe, coming up this fall, painting the water tower finally. It has lead paint, so there's certain environmental protections that need to be done to collect the lead paint and dispose of it properly. But we've been talking about painting the water tower since I've been here, so it sounds like it's actually gonna get done here. So that's good.
What are you going to paint it?
I think they're just painting it like white to begin with, like something just basic. That's what I think. And then there has been conversations about maybe wrapping it as part of the World Cup, if there could be sponsorship or something like that. So I'm not sure what will happen with that, but just doing the necessary maintenance. And you can submit a comment of like what color you would like the water tower. Hopefully not that ugly green color. That would be my vote.
I think that's a potential art opportunity.
Oh, it definitely is. I was just looking at the one that is up by Angel of the Winds Casino, and they painted their water tower like a natural tree motif and everything, and it's kind of surrounded by trees, and I just thought, oh, that's super cool. But yeah, it could be an art installation.
Make it a minion, with a giant eye, and bright yellow with like suspenders, and then it's holding the radio tower there. Which is why I'm not.
Hey, we have to get through our branding exercise. Talk to Ryan. Yes, and there you go. That's our new branding.
This is why I'm not on the committee to select it. But I think there's opportunity to do something really fun.
Yeah, sure,
right?
there is. I think you guys are going to be talking about that a little bit, aren't you?
With the branding.
Yeah, just kind of with the branding and opportunities for that.
I think a more realistic outlook is maybe holding off on a design for the long term. So following the branding kind of exercise, or at least we have a clearer picture. And then also really depends on the funding to be able to use arts funding, then there's a
Right.
process for that. But if we go a different route, we have to have funding.
He could get on the Arts Council, and then go for the Minion thing. Yeah, so anyways, I don't disagree, and we're always looking for ways to interject art into the community. So I'm all for that as well. I think that would be super cool. But yeah, that's all I have.
Anybody else? Questions or follow-up for staff? All right, not hearing or seeing any, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is miscellaneous business by call-up planning commissioners. Anybody have any miscellaneous business? Absences coming up? No? All right.
Okay.
With that, go ahead and declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.